Saturday afternoon's main event that's going to shake up the wrestling world and specifically the podcasting world. Okay?
What is this?
So, as I mentioned, you guys just continue to bury the numbers. The numbers are dying, let's be honest. Okay? And that's about to change. That's about to change because my breaking news is, as I talked to you guys about in the past, intellectual property is the reason I am on the show. And the reason why next week, right here on Saturday afternoon's main event, will be the return of the legendary Uncle Triple C. Yeah, that face, exactly. Look at that face, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. That is correct, sir. He will return, and the ratings will go through the roof because the people have spoken, and they want the uncle back.
Hold on. Wait just a minute. Just wait. Just wait. Peeps?
Yeah.
Cover your ears. Cover your damn ears, peeps. Please.
I'm going to take my headsets out.
Chris, what in the blue hell are you talking about?
Intellectual property.
Who?
You host the show. Listen, you host
Who
the show.
Who the hell are you?
You can host every week, okay? And you do a very mediocre job, might I say. But the host with the most, one of the greatest hosts of all time, is coming back to spark Saturday afternoon's
greatest host of all time. Greatest host of all time. Greatest host of all time. When, if it ain't for me, we don't get on Fadeaway Media. If it isn't for me, we don't get millions of views on TikTok. If it isn't for me, we don't average what the heck we average on Instagram. If it isn't for me, same would it be taken to new heights. Without me, this show was nothing. So what in the blue hell are you talking about when you say host with the most? The fuck are you talking about? You know...
Deal with it.
I digress. Peeps, you can come back. Come back. I'm not doing this. It's Saturday.
Obi, you know what? You're not going to get anything. Look at Obi-Wan Jabroni over there. You're not going to get anything out of him. Come on.
Well, how about this? Why don't we move the show along and actually talk about things that we do know works? And that is get the fans what they want watching our show.
Fans, I'm so sorry. Guys, of course, this SOB just had to go ahead and just ruin the phenomenal one shine today. But you know what? It doesn't mean we're ruining the show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Look, when you go ahead and you hear this one sound in the world of Saturday afternoon's main event, it means it's time for one thing and one thing only, peeps. Brace yourself because, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is time for
Wrestling Crash Course.
Well then, peeps, I think it's time for Wrestling Crash Course, and ladies and gentlemen, here comes the first piece of news.
Yes.
Lex Luger is going to be inducted into the 2025 WWE Hall of Fame. Long overdue. Peeps, of course, we know you want to go ahead and get into this, so go. Speak on this.
He should have gotten into the Hall of Fame a long time ago. Yeah. We know that Lex Luger has been in the business since 1985. We know that Lex Luger has been a multiple-time world champion, tag team champion. He's won titles everywhere he's gone for the most part. Yes. We know what kind of impact that Luger has in the business as being one of those guys that was the prototypical 1980s wrestler, big, strong, insane physique, looked like an Adonis, walked out and did so many different things, started off winning his first championship 3 weeks into his career by winning the Southern Heavyweight Championship when he was in Florida. And then, of course, piggybacking on that, bringing him up to the Crockett's, and then the push to make him a horseman on their way to trying to push him forward to getting what they thought was going to be their Hulk Hogan down the road. Luger, in his life, we know, did so many different things that a lot of people did not like. And that kind of led on to the road that he's gone through in his second act. We know that he had an issue with drugs and had an issue with a lot of other things that were in his life, steroid use. And to this day, we know now because of the spinal stroke that he is now pretty much wheelchair bound. And the second act of his life that is now taking over for what people see of him, they are now recognizing what kind of a gift he was to the wrestling business. And he sort of reinvented himself more recently over the last, say, 2 or 3 years in the eyes of the wrestling fans. And I think that this is what has kind of led to the announcement of him going into the Hall of Fame. And it was long overdue. I'm glad he's getting his flowers now while he is actually around to receive them.
Got you. Chris, I'm going to ask you this question. With knowing that Luger's going into the Hall of Fame, do we see that the person inducting him could be one Sting?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense considering that they had a lot to do with each other's careers for a long time. Yeah. I mean, I'm curious. I mean, obviously, Sting hasn't been in AEW in a while now, so I think it makes sense. I don't think Hunter's going to hold anything against Sting for being in that company. So
it's almost been a full calendar year, actually.
I don't know anyone else off the top of my head that would make sense to introduce Luger. I don't know. Yeah, that makes sense. So the thing with Luger is his career. He had two different great runs in the business. He had his great run with Flair and Sting in the late 80s, and then he went to WWF, don't forget, the Lex Express. And everyone talks about how much the Lex Express failed, so many different aspects of it that didn't go right. Vince never really getting the whole Lex Express thing. And then the highlights of his career, showing up on Nitro, right? The very first Nitro, right after walking out of WWF. And then he had the second great run when he was still jacked, but he looked different and just was more refined in the late 90s with the run against Hogan. And just two different aspects of his career. And of course, the horrible tragedy. We could talk about Elizabeth and how he's recently admitted that he did have a role in her passing due to the drugs. And but more importantly, I know you mentioned his wheelchair bound. I don't know if you're privy to this, but recently it surfaced that DDP has been helping him, and I believe, if I'm correct, that he took his first step recently.
Yes, he's been walking a little bit step by step out of the wheelchair. I believe Diamond Dallas Page has become a godsend to the not just the wrestling world, but just the world in general, and helping so many different souls out with different addictions and things of that nature, injuries, back pain. His DDP yoga has helped a lot of people, most notably Jake Roberts. He helped out the late Scott Hall. We know he's been helping Luger out for a while. And I loved how the WWE did the announcement where Cody Rhodes made a surprise, I guess you can say a surprise appearance in Luger's home, or I should say in Page's home while he was doing the workout, and was the one that announced that he was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. And knowing that the parallels that Luger had in his first really big feud on the Crockett circuit, so to speak, was against Cody Rhodes' father, Dusty, over the United States Championship when Luger was a horseman, the first major belt that he won when he was in the NWA and the Crockett promotion. And it kind of went full circle how it was the son that inducted him into the Hall of Fame for the lessons that he learned having the feud with his father.
So it could be Cody. I mean, it could be Sting or Cody. That would make sense.
I could see Cody inducting him just based on that. That would make sense, because he could then talk about, I saw the feud that you had with my dad when I was a kid, and I saw what you. So he can go into those kinds of things and talk about that as well.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't workshop it.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But congratulations to Lex on going ahead and getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. From there, we moved still into the world of the WWE, but to an announcer, Pat McAfee. If you guys watched Elimination Chamber this past week, you would know that America was getting booed due to the national anthem being sung at the Rogers Centre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Pat McAfee followed up later that night with some comments to Canadians about the fact that they were booing the national anthem. And of course, Chris, you were one of the people who went ahead and at least spoke on this. Now, look, I'll let you go ahead and at least put your 2 cents, because, of course, we have been hearing that McAfee has been getting threats from other people, from other individuals, due to the fact of his comments reigning from Elimination Chamber this past week. So, Chris, get into this.
Yeah, I wasn't privy to the threats, but it does make sense considering what he said about Canada. And the thing that I had tweeted him about was they weren't booing the United States so much as they were booing its leader, Donald Trump, our current train wreck of a president. So that has to be understood. And what I said to McAfee was, I don't know if you're a MAGA guy. Who knows? I don't think McAfee's come out politically one way or another. But you have to understand that the separation of what Trump is doing with the tariffs involving Canada, Mexico, China, you name it, that people are going to have ill feelings towards this man. And a lot of people in this country have it, not just in Canada, okay? So I was confused at the disconnect and McAfee not comprehending that they weren't booing this country. They were booing a certain person.
Yeah. And I think that's the way it came across. I looked at it as understanding why the Canadian fans were booing. They've been doing it at sporting events. We know that in the NHL that the Canadian fans have booed the national anthem for America. So we understand politically what's going on. And the issue isn't the fact that they are, they're booing the product or they're booing. It's the political landscape that those fans are upset at. And that's one of those things where politics goes into real life things. That is the cross section that you have to kind of be careful on in addressing, for fear of maybe getting the wrong people upset, or maybe not even understanding why people are upset in the first place.
You're not wrong, peeps. You're not wrong. Well, from there, we hope that gets resolved quickly. We know that WWE's not going to do anything to the point of firing the man. I mean, listen, look who's on the, look who's the Secretary of Education now in the United States of America. So I mean, that should tell you all you need to know in this world. But within everything else, look, we move to the world of AEW/WWE because a certain AEW star is now a free agent. Ladies and gentlemen, Rey Fenix is now on his way to WWE. We know this for a fact. There is no way that it's something different. There is no way that he's probably heading to TNA. Let's be for real. His brother's now a part of WWE, and his brother is Penta. So now look, case in point, where does he go ahead and go into? People are now saying that there's a good chance that he will go ahead and be a part of WrestleMania one way or another. Other people are saying that he might just end up showing up next week. Who knows what the cases are? We've seen what they've done with Ricky Starks. We've seen how quick Penta has went ahead and garnered attention across the main roster. So what is the case here? Chris, peeps, I'll go ahead and go with Chris first. What do you think is going to go ahead and be the case with Rey Fenix?
Well, I know we talked about in that pre-show meeting regarding Chad Gable and what storyline would make the most sense for Rey Fenix to appear in, which would be Chad Gable seeking out advice on how to defeat luchadors. And what better way to introduce Rey Fenix than in this storyline, specifically going against Penta, which most people do know is his actual brother. I think it just ties together. What do you think, Nate?
That it makes perfect sense, and it would be a huge boon to bring Rey Fenix in for a debut. I mean, Penta debuted on the main roster, and who was his opponent? So we know going in that it ties in perfectly. If this is the story that they're going with and they want to continue on that same road, and then they could branch it out somehow by bringing in other luchadors or anybody that's on the roster that may not be getting used. And eventually we know that the Lucha Brothers will reunite as a team because Triple H is now starting to finally wake up the tag team division and utilize them both on Raw and on SmackDown. More Raw than SmackDown over the last couple of weeks, but it's kind of flipped a little bit. But that's what they're trying to do. And adding the Lucha Brothers as a tag team only makes the tag team division that much more deep going forward. And I think that's where they're headed.
I agree. Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of Wrestling Crash Course. If you want to go ahead and keep up with all the latest social media news and updates, all you got to do is one thing and one thing only. DM us on Instagram or follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whichever you name it. If you want to follow us on Instagram at Saturday Afternoons _ main event. Follow us on Twitter at Saturday Main and follow us on TikTok at Saturday Afternoons ME. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and move into our first piece of news for today. And of course, the one thing that has been talked about through social media, the one thing that has been talked about through every single wrestling news platform, every single wrestling fan, including myself, alongside the Peeps Nature, alongside Mr. 411, have been talking about it since it happened. Ladies and gentlemen, the heel turn heard around the world. I don't have to get into it. You saw it, I saw it, and every single person within 104 million people within the last 2 days have seen it. Last week, I could have been even more than 104 million. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is this. Ladies and gentlemen, John Cena, in the year of our Lord AD 2025, has decided to side with The Rock, sell his soul in the process, and turn heel. Peeps! What are we thinking of this? How are we feeling about this? What is your thought process?
I think it was low-key ingenious, even though it seemingly fell into the lap of Triple H based on from the stories that we've heard that a lot of this happened because The Rock wanted to kind of interject himself into WrestleMania again on some capacity. We don't know if he's going to wrestle, probably not. We don't know what that situation is. But the build of it and how it worked, the camera work involved, how everything built into Elimination Chamber for it to then switch just like that. And that was perfectly done. There were a couple of hiccups along the way, namely Travis Scott deciding to use Cody's eardrum as a handball, but hey, I digress. But in any event, that's the first one. Knowing what's going on with that aside, it was literally well done. And there are so many different pieces and story beats that they can use along the route as they continue to build this. We know that John Cena basically himself said, what I'm going to do is this is my last year. We're going to go take the fans on a ride that we haven't had to deal with. One of those is him turning heel at the height of his face cachet. One of the story beats that I think that they could probably throw in there, and maybe they may do it, who knows, is involve people politically that John Cena has ticked off. You know, guys like Wade Barrett, who, if you remember back during the Nexus days, it was Cena that kind of killed their push based on the push they were trying to give because I guess it didn't work for Cena, brother. Things like that. They can institute and throw in there and then show that it's a slow build from years and years and years. He can get on the fans about why they dumped on him when he was the face of the company and all of those things. The fact that he was literally a heel in a face's persona, and now that's gone as he has to decide how they're going to do this. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And as long as they make it consistent and it makes sense, this can be one of the best feuds that the WWE has done in quite some time.
I agree. Chris, how do you feel about the Chain Gang Soldier's first heel turn since 2003?
I mean, look, it was so perfectly done. I mean, very few people who claim to have seen it coming. I don't know if they're just, easy to say that after it happened, right? I saw it coming. But the way they did it was just, I mean, we talk about WWE right now and how they're clicking on all cylinders. They just upped it a notch. They took it to another level with this turn. And look, people were everyone can have little moments of criticism in terms of Cena. And they said, oh, well, maybe his facial expressions weren't the best. The guy hasn't been a heel in 20 years.
Yes.
So maybe you can work on the facials, whatever. That's fine. Not everything is perfect. But the more interesting part about this will be his first promo. I want to hear what he talks about, his talking points, and where he goes with why he did this. All right, we could talk about his connection with The Rock. And there's different avenues that we could go down. I know, Rich, you had your own theory. But what about the theory of this? John Cena's movie career has kind of dried out a little bit. We haven't seen him in many things, right? I mean, think about it. I know he's filming something currently, but what if he joined The Rock because his Hollywood career is doing just that? And now the final boss, who has a say in the Hollywood business, is going to get him bigger roles in the movie business. So now he has more reason to turn and join with The Rock. And again, 20 years, Vince didn't want to do it. Merchandise, you name it. Talk about Hogan in WCW. His character was dying, so they had to go in a different direction to revive Hulk Hogan. That made sense. This, I mean, I don't know what his merch looks like right now, but this just makes so much sense.
Oh yes, it's perfect. And the way that they did it was just genius. And going on that whole rock beat, they can definitely pull that connection from the two WrestleManias that they wrestled each other. And John Cena can then go ahead and say, you know what? I saw when I criticized you for being a part timer, all of these things that happened. Um, I saw that I was wrong in what I did. And maybe down the road, he cultivated a relationship between The Rock and himself that they didn't talk about off camera, that then they could build on camera in storyline to show everybody Cody didn't pay his dues. Cody just came in on the nepotism of his father and his brother. They could play that angle up and then throw that in there. And plus, with all of the other people that are showing up that are upset about what Cena did, as evidenced by how many people on social media were burning Cena's shirts and merchandise in effigy, throwing it on the ground and setting it on fire, taking his kids are crying in it. I don't want to throwing action figures out into the garbage. It had the same feel that Hogan turning and going NWO had. That is the modern version if you want to make some sort of a connection or a correlation between how heel turns work. If it gets the fans that upset, and we're only a week out away from that, it worked.
Now, the fans are different in 2025. Eric Bischoff went on and talked about how the Hogan reaction was better in terms of the fans throwing everything in the ring, losing their minds. Here, there was a percentage of fans that loved this too much to boo it. That was a major problem if you want to talk about kayfabe and the history of the business. Yes, that was a fact. People wanted this to happen for a long time.
Yes, including Cena himself, because he wanted this to happen way back when. As a matter of fact, when I watched it, I stood up and applauded as it was happening. But I was like, wow, that's all I can say. Wow, there you go.
Whatever thought.
Everything that happened in that entirety of that angle worked and made sense. The exception of the Travis Scott stuff. But,
well, I mean, yes, you digress on that, Peach. We understand. But look, I have to ask you guys, since you guys were around for it, if you had to put both of them side by side, do we wait a little longer towards the end of this whole storyline, or can't we go ahead and make an inference now? Which one was bigger, Hogan or Cena's turn?
We need a little more time, but ultimately, I think the Hogan turn might be bigger because, again, you know what? To be fair, in comparison, the drawing here, the drawing with the money, it's going to be close to equal because WWE's numbers right now are insane. So what numbers they're putting up right now, WCW is doing then in comparison. So it might be neck and neck. I don't know if one's going to have the edge in terms of the money situation.
Yeah. And it'll be different also based on the types of revenue streams that WWE has now, as opposed to what WWF and WCW were drawing back in the 90s, where you didn't have streaming. You didn't have the kind of roles that you had. You had DVDs and VHS tapes to sell, and you had that kind of merchandise that you could go ahead and sell back during the 90s. Today, not so much. You got your streaming services and you're able to do that. But in general, I'm really thinking that the Hogan turn was bigger in the fact that Hogan is a bigger name than Cena. Even though Cena is a great name, is a big name, especially over the last 20 years. Hogan's importance to the past and up to that point transcended everything. Maybe to the same parallels. Both of them were movie stars. Both of them did a lot of things outside of the wrestling business. But it's Hulk Hogan. The name Hulk Hogan transcends everything.
Right. You're right. Now, the last question, of course, with John Cena winning Elimination Chamber, now knowing that he is facing Cody Rhodes, guys, the big pop question. Is he winning number 17 at WrestleMania?
I think so. They go two ways. They have either built Cody Rhodes to be Hulk Hogan, and this is just another person that they've set up for Cody to knock down in his quest to go to the next person to knock down, which would presumably be Roman Reigns, or maybe Randy Orton. Or you're doing the redemption story by Cena winning the belt, somehow, someone interfering, someone coming out. I have a figure thought process of a certain rattlesnake that might show up because they're going to be in Nevada. I don't know in what capacity if it happens, but they could go
I
that
feel like
route
he cost
also.
Cody as well.
Exactly. It could go either way. But if they go the route that Cena is going to win, makes the most sense that somebody could also be in there to cost him. And
Yeah.
that's what I think they're going.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off that. That's brilliant because Cena just winning in that fashion wouldn't be as great as if another person turned on Cody. Yeah,
Yes.
that would be great.
Yes. Somebody
Having
that
somebody
Cody
like
would have
Cody-
respected and nobody thought about.
Exactly. Now, thinking if you would think that Stone Cold would show up, you would think, oh, he's there to go ahead and lay one to the Rock. He's there to go ahead and ensure that Cody comes out on top. Knowing the history of Stone Cold in Texas, knowing the history of him, having some type of fond memory of Dusty Rhodes and, his, ties to Cody, you would think that trusting Stone Cold would be the right info. But then, of course, Stone Cold's mantra, DTA, don't trust anybody, goes out there, Stone Cold Stunner to Cody, Cena ends up going ahead and hitting a 1-2-3, and Stone Cold aligns with them as well. Who, once more, cinema, right? That's
Yes.
what we're calling it nowadays.
Because they did it for The Rock. That's why.
We'll have a lot of time to go ahead and go into that as well. So, peeps, thank you for that one. But, ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of this talk right here. Before we go ahead and go into break, peeps, now's the time that you should go ahead and give us the ratings for this past week. Tell us what WWE did. Tell us what AEW did. What did NXT do?
It's interesting to look at the fact that AEW last week did 598,000 fans.
Okay.
This week they did 600,000. So they roughly broke even. Whereas NXT, which was preempted in Chicago and New York for the presidential address to Congress, was shown on Wednesday. Even with those two markets not showing, NXT did 698,000 with 0.15 in the demo. So go figure. They still were able to stay on par with that 650, 700,000 given the circumstances of their TV schedule in a couple of big markets.
Of course. Okay. And
especially
NXT
for a
itself,
go-home show for AEW. That's crazy. That is crazy.
But when it comes to other ratings itself, like when it comes to NXT, what did NXT do?
Like I said, NXT did 698,000.
Still beating
Raw.
Still beating, Raw. They don't have the ratings for this past week as far as the amount of people that have watched. But we do know for the 24th, which was the previous week, they got 2.6 million for Raw. The week before that, they got 2.8 million. So what we've seen with Raw is they're globally getting between 3 million and 2.5 million, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay. Nate, you're dropping the ball with this report because clearly you're missing out on one important number here that the AEW faithful will let you know about. The fact that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that last week on Dynamite, 17 million people watched on Max. Okay, so I don't know how you don't report that.
17 million.
Yeah, but that demo is insane though. If I'm not gonna be, if I'm being for real with you, 0.13, that's a real drop. Honestly speaking, that's a drop.
And they constantly hammer how much they care about the demo, and yet the demo continues to fluctuate in a way that's not conducive to them growing right now.
Hey, it's 2025. Ratings don't matter. WBD loves the show. The show is amazing. It's great, right? If I can quote Tony the Tiger Khan, they're great.
So it's funny because I saw a fan go ahead and put out that the only rating that actually truly matters is the cage match rating. At that point, I give up with Twitter. That's all I'll say. I digress. But
there you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, that marks the end of the first half of Same. When we come back, we will go ahead and get into our questions. And then, of course, our last piece of news for today would be our preview and our predictions for tomorrow night's AEW Revolution pay-per-view taking place at the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, California. So stay tuned. Do not go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, because the second half of Saturday afternoon's main event is coming up next. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the second half of Saturday afternoon's main event. Of course, inside a phenomenal one. Right next to me is the Peep Snake, and down below us is Christopher Morton, Mr. 411. We're here to give you laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. Now we've gotten to the part of our show where we go ahead and get into the questions. If you want to be a part of the show and you want to send in a question and you do not know what to do, I suggest you go ahead and look down at the ticker below. DM us on Instagram at Saturday afternoons _main event. Send in the question and in the words of the wrestling god, WWE Hall of Famer JBL, I guarantee it will be on the next episode of the show. So look, gentlemen, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into our questions. The first one comes from one Master Sean 007. He says, greetings, gentlemen. We keep hearing about those wrestling talents that belong in the WWE Hall of Fame. Who do you guys think doesn't belong in the WWE Hall of Fame? Peeps, name one.
Drew Carey. How about that?
I'm sorry, there's a laundry list of people. First of all, the WWE Hall of Fame is the biggest mark thing ever, right? I mean, if it was a real sports Hall of Fame, there's a good percentage of people that don't belong in. So to say one or just a few, there's a lot.
I didn't consider the WWE Hall of Fame a legitimate Hall of Fame, and I've talked about this ad nauseum until Bruno Sammartino went in. Now, I understand Andre the Giant was the first person to go into the Hall of Fame for obvious reasons, Vince McMahon's affinity to the Hall of Fame. But let's really be honest. While Vince was running the WWE, the Hall of Fame inductions were always a very political, I wash your hands, you wash mine, and that kind of thing. Where it was, if you were on good terms with the company and you did certain things and you were able to put above all else any competition, no matter what, you were going to probably get into the Hall of Fame. A lot of people that I think that come from two different thoughts processes. You either are acknowledging the WWE Hall of Fame as far as talents that would be there because of their contributions to the WWE, or this is a blanket pro wrestling Hall of Fame, kind of like the Wrestling Observer's Hall of Fame. If you're looking at it from that standpoint, Abdullah the Butcher has no reason to be in the WWE Hall of Fame, if that's where we're going. But we know that was put in partially due to the fact that they probably ran out of people that they wanted to induct, and also you got to start putting people in that you think will give them value to look at the product or look at the induction ceremony. So there are a lot of wrestlers that are in there that aren't, and then there are wrestlers that aren't in there that should be in there, like Demolition, who I hope go in knowing that they are now in the good graces of WWE now. They should have been in a long time ago.
The British Bulldogs aren't in the Hall of Fame. Are you kidding me? There's a laundry list of teams not in the Hall of Fame.
Yes. Like it's insane the amount of talent that aren't in the Hall of Fame that should be, and then the guys that are in the Hall of Fame that don't deserve to be. It boggles the mind.
Waiting on Psycho Sid, and that still hasn't.
I think he goes in this year. I think he goes in. If he doesn't go in this year, then he's going to definitely go in next year.
Hopefully, peeps. Let's hope. Let's hope. That's all we can do.
There has to be I think for those that have had bad experiences in the company or left the company on bad terms, there has to be a time period where there's a cooling off process to let it happen. Look at Scott Steiner. No one would have thought with the mouth that Scott Steiner had in his Steiner math that he would ever go into the Hall of Fame.
Not wrong.
I love how he has said in recent things we've learned about Braun Breaker, how Scott talks about him being on his best behavior so he doesn't ruin Braun Baker's career. It's great.
Go figure. Oh man.
But Master Sean 007, thank you for the question. The next one comes from Long Island Isaiah. He says, do we think that Cena's turn will have greater lasting effect than Hogan's heel turn?
No, I don't think
Definitely not.
It's not because of where we are in as wrestling fans and where the business is now. We know Hogan turning, even though he was diminishing on the back end of his career for Hollywood and then coming back to WCW and then doing the turn, that had much more long-lasting effects.
Yeah.
Whereas Cena, we know this is his last year. So a heel turn, although completely unexpected, we know by the end of the year, there's a redemption arc that is going to happen where they're going to do something with Cena and they're going to hit, he turned, something happens, he looks at The Rock for who he is, and then he turns back to the fans and something along those lines. I mean, Chris, what do you think?
No, that's the one thing that bothers me about the Cena heel turn, and it should be part of the storyline, is that he's fooled everybody, right, into believing that this was his last year. What if it's not his last year? That should be part of the storyline.
Yes, that's a great point. That would definitely work.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. That can go ahead and definitely tie in. We all just have to wait and see. But Long Island Isaiah, we hope we answered your question to the best of our abilities. The next one comes from JD Nader Productions. He says, good afternoon, gentlemen. I have 2 questions. How do you guys think Cena's first entrance would look? And what were your reactions during Naomi's segment on SmackDown? So to first answer, the first question, I'll say that I feel that we're going to get a hybrid between a good corporate John Cena, I would say about 2009, 2010, and a sense of basic thugonomics John Cena.
What is he wearing?
I feel that we're going to go ahead and get a good hybrid between the two, but maybe just turned up to a notch. That's what we've been seeing with many of the heel turns as of late. Look what we got with Rock. We got, current Rock, but also Hollywood Rock introduced within the two, turned up to the max, Super Rock, Final Boss. Now that's what we got. With Cena, I feel that we're going to go ahead and get that kind of like corporate entity alongside what we got with the Final Boss, but just turned up to the max.
I'm a little more curious with, first of all, I think, what music does he come out to? Does Travis Scott produce a new song for him? Or do they go with the WWE generic new song?
First off, I don't feel Def Rebel, because what's next? We're going to go ahead and hear with You Can't See Me, You Never Did. Like, what are we going to expect here?
Yeah.
I, for one, I feel that we're going to go ahead and get at least maybe what Cena called his heel theme, that song that he said that he had recorded in 2012 prior to that heel turn that should have happened at WrestleMania 28. I feel that we probably get that theme song because he said it was pretty much the same thing as The Time Is Now, but just with a different sense of instruments and background to it. So I think that maybe we get that. If that's what it's going to be, that's what it's going to be. Maybe all black instead of Fruity Pebble clothing. I feel that maybe the return of the black jorts. I wouldn't mind a Ruck Fools t-shirt maybe there. Word like brass knuckles maybe if that were to be the case. But I feel that we're going to get a much more darker John Cena in his fourth. Once he goes ahead and shows up, the 17th of March? So we have about, maybe 9 days left. So we'll wait and see. But to ask you guys, what were your reactions during the Naomi segment on SmackDown?
Nate, take this because I haven't seen it.
Oh, man. This was a masterpiece in storytelling. The fact that Naomi came out after Bianca was out on camera. She looked like she was going to a funeral, all dressed in black. Comes to the ring, subdued, dark sunglasses, explaining what happened to her. At the same time, we also know that going forward, it's one of those things where you saw the development of emotions. I'm confused. I don't know why my friend would do something like this. Naomi comes to the ring. Naomi gets in there and they start to have this conversation, but she was being a little coy, not going as far as what she did, admitting why she did what she did. And then eventually, finally, after all of the back and forth and what was going on, Naomi finally admitted, yes, I'm the one that did it. Everybody turned their back on me. When I help everybody out, they've turned their back on me. And as this back and forth was going, Naomi is still doing her promo and still cutting this promo. Bianca said, "I'm done." She leaves the ring. She gets up the aisle. You see the camera work, which is where the production part of this works.
Yep.
Bianca turning, and the Jumbotron shows Jade driving up in her SUV, getting out, showing up on camera, going into the aisle. This is where the part that I thoroughly loved happened. Jade shows up dressed all in white, but her outfit has splotches of red to represent the blood that she shed when she went through that windshield when she was initially hurt. Mind you, when she got hurt, she was wearing all black. This time she's wearing all white, but with blood to represent what was happening. And she went inside, she gave a nod to Bianca. Bianca gave her a nod. She walked into the ring and beat Naomi senseless.
Yep.
And then walked out. That is storytelling. You got the camera angle, you got the production work, you got the subtle facial expressions, you got the emotion from Naomi, you got the expression from Bianca, and they clashed together in the ring on camera, and they carried the segment. It was perfectly done. That's what you do as what we have all said is cinema.
But what's the end game here? Do you see Bianca eventually siding with Naomi to jump Jade? What happens here? Are we getting a Bianca heel turn?
That could be the next step. If the whole idea is Bianca is upset as to why this person did this, because Naomi's mindset is, I did this for you because she felt that Jade was riding Bianca's coattails. That's the explanation of the story. But as you did say, the what if? What happens if the whole thing is a setup and maybe she did beat her up, but the whole thing is Bianca knows that that's the case, knowing that Naomi took this beating to lull Jade into a false sense of security to then do something else. Because remember, Bianca is getting a title shot at WrestleMania.
Right.
Yeah.
Jade is now coming back. So if you're going to do that, lull her into another false sense of security, and the whole thing was a setup. Maybe Jade was halfway to knowing what happened to her, but before she could put two and two together, Bianca then becomes the other person that's involved in this whole deal.
I got it.
There are a lot of ways they can go.
And then listen to this. So then Bianca, when she turns on Jade, she gets her title shot at WrestleMania, and guess who costs her the title match? Jade. And then we get Jade and Bianca at SummerSlam or whatever pay-per-view follows.
Yes, there you go.
ELE, excuse me.
There you go.
That works.
Booker men, we are there.
We're there, right? Tony, hire us. No, I don't want to join it. But in all other cases, last one comes from Hot Rod 316. He says, "Greetings and citations, gentlemen." I think you meant to say salutations, Hot Rod. But he says, off the top of your head.
It's 12:47. He's pretty drunk already.
Most likely, right? Already has the Grey Goose in hand. But he says, off the top of your head, what's your favorite WrestleMania theme song and one of your WrestleMania moments? You know what? We've had about 40 WrestleManias. If you had to count off your fingers, I can go ahead and say anything from Limp Bizkit, probably WrestleMania 17 or WrestleMania 19. WrestleMania 20 with Drowning Pools was great. 23 with Saliva. 27 with Tiny Temper, 28 with MGK and Flo Rida, 39 most recently with The Weeknd. Guys, don't get me wrong.
Yes,
I like Travis Scott's music, but theme for WrestleMania 41 is not a WrestleMania theme song. That's just my info. But
I understand.
Peeps, what are some of your, what's your favorite WrestleMania theme song? Are we gonna go ahead and go back with what Linda McMahon used as her theme song later in life?
I'm one of those guys that absolutely hated that WrestleMania song. I hated it with a passion because it just sounded like cats scratching a blackboard. Oh, it was horrible. WrestleMania, oh, good Lord in heaven. I like the music that they used for WrestleMania 7. That one was cool. One of my favorites is the one that they did at WrestleMania 32 at Levi Stadium, the one with Dave
31,
Guetta.
you mean?
Yes.
31. Gotcha.
Yeah, 31. Yes. I love that one. And that worked for me. as far as WrestleMania moments goes, there's just too many of them to name. We've seen from the interviews, we've seen Andre the Giant and the things that we've seen in ring, the moments in the matches that we've seen. It's just way too many of them to just go ahead and name all of them right off the hip. It's just craziness. But I know the shocking ones, those are the ones that we all remember. Just last year, that was full of moments. The Austin moment with KO, that was a moment. There are just so many of them.
In the process.
Yes.
Steamboat
winning the Intercontinental Championship, and the way the crowd popped when he raised his hands and George the Animal Steel lifted him up and he's holding onto the belt, and the way the fans popped for that was beautiful.
Yeah, you're right. The streak being one of them. Daniel Bryan getting his WrestleMania moment.
Yes.
The ending to Eddie Guerrero and Kurt Angle's match at WrestleMania 20, where Eddie went ahead and, kind of like untied his shoe, and once Angle went ahead and tried to go into the ankle lock, he got roosed. You count so many WrestleMania moments. We're already at WrestleMania 41.
Yes.
Literally
the ending of Flair versus Michaels.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything encompassed in there.
Sorry, I love you. Yes.
Yes. The first Undertaker Shawn Michaels match, the way that ended, and even though Taker won, it was probably the first time that we started to notice Taker looking human, because that was kind of that build. It was like a 5 or 6 year stretch where every match that the Undertaker had at WrestleMania made him look more and more human. That match against Shawn Michaels, the first one, was the first one where everybody looked at it as like, wow, he might actually lose this match.
Yep. I'll give you 3 real quick. The streak ending. I mean, does it get any bigger than the streak ending?
That's true.
Hogan Warrior winning.
Mm-hmm.
And
that crowd lost their minds on that one.
And Rock Hogan in Canada.
Oh, yeah. Without question. Question.
I can agree. Well, look, that marks the end of the questions, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. We appreciate the questions. You want to go ahead and be a part of the action? All you got to do is one thing and one thing only. Send in the question on Instagram at Saturday Afternoons_main event. Send in the question. It will be answered on the next episode of the show. With that being said, we get to our last piece of news for today. Of course, not news, but more so our predictions for tomorrow night's AEW Revolution pay-per-view. Once more, hailing from Los Angeles, California. Guys, look, there is one pre-show match. Peeps, you can just pencil me in for Big Boom AJ and the conglomeration. That goes without saying.
I'm not going to waste my ink on that one.
Wait, why don't we I have a question. Why don't we get a Boom AJ against Boom Boom Colt Cabana? How do we not book that match?
Yeah, that would definitely be funny.
But look, we have about 9 minutes to go ahead and go into this fully. I'm going to go ahead and just pencil them down. Peeps, look, Ospreay versus Fletcher, steel cage match. Give me Ospreay.
I got you. Ospreay it is. Because that's what I think is going to happen, because this is the push towards his world title run by the end of the year.
Well, here's why Ospreay's going to win. And this is like booking 101 in the wrong way, though. They clearly did the beatdown of Ospreay. Whoever gets their ass kicked on the go-home show has to win, right?
Yes.
It's too much of a giveaway.
Yes.
Absolutely. Next match, singles match for the AEW Continental title. Kaz Okada versus Brody King. Does this go without saying who we know who's going to win? Peeps, you can already pencil me in for Kaz Okada. We know where this is leading. All in Texas, Omega, Okada. They still haven't called a match yet. They still haven't booked it, but we know that's where they're going, and they're just going ahead and putting in placeholders for Okada to go ahead and just win a couple more matches before Texas. Let's
exactly.
Just call it what it is.
Yes.
Okay. Well then, 4th match. MJF versus Hangman Adam Page. I think we're all ready to see what happens within this. Of course, Hangman Adam Page being the face in all of this still doesn't go ahead and correlate with me, but you know what? It is what it is. I think I have Hangman Adam Page going in.
I don't think he can do another job. I'm sorry to cut you, Nate. I don't want to see Hangman do another job here. But here's the question: if he doesn't do the job, does someone cost MJF to give him a next feud?
Yeah. And who would that person be? Knowing that MJF he's pissed off so many people on the roster. Who would be the next man up that would benefit from getting a feud in with MJF going forward? Page, this is the second time that they've had a chance to capitalize on how over he is with the fans. The first time that they did that was a few months ago, and then they just blew that off after the Swerve feud. Now that they're realizing what's going on, they're building him, not to say he's a face per se, he's just over with the fans. So I'm going to definitely say Page wins this. I actually think Page needs this win more than MJF.
He does. Agreed. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, then,
So I'll
there
pencil
we
in
move to the
Page.
next match. Tag team match for the AEW World Tag Titles. The team that hurts people, the Hurt Syndicate, versus the Outrunners. Give me the Hurt Syndicate. Come on. We hurt people. We hurt people. Peeps, come on. Let's just
I have to admit, though, I actually like how they've been building the Outrunners over the last 3 or 4 months. It's been quite funny that this team all of a sudden has now gotten organically over with the fans, mostly on Collision. So there are probably people that may not watch Collision, but watch Dynamite and are wondering where the heck did they come from? There you go. They've organically taken the audience from what was part of the Acclaim. The Acclaimed had that kind of audience push from the fans. They've taken that heat from them, and that's where they're at right now. Obviously, they're not going to beat the Hurt Syndicate.
Absolutely not. From there, singles match for the AEW TBS title. Momo Watanabe versus Mercedes.
Yeah, I think everyone knows Mercedes is winning here.
Of course. Mercedes Hogan for the win, ladies and gentlemen.
Creative control, right?
You're gonna drop the leg on it, pin.
Big boot.
You.
Great. Wait. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be 6 stars.
There you go.
And if it happened in the Tokyo Dome, 7.5.
But yes, I think we all got Mercedes Moné penciled in here. Next match.
Yes.
Singles match to determine the number 1 contender to the AEW World Title. Swerve Strickland, Ricochet.
Oh,
Ricochet
this is going to be a really good match.
Work of his career so far, but
yes,
Swerve Strickland. Give me Swerve.
I got Ricochet.
I'm of the same mindset. Also, I got Ricochet winning. Also,
but here's why, though. Let's talk about this.
Yes,
Nana's going to turn on Swerve. I truly.
You're starting to feel the same. I was trying to think that wouldn't happen. I was really trying to step away from that because I just can't see Swerve without Nana. It's like, damn, are we really about to do this? Because, of course, if we go ahead and go back a couple of weeks to when Nana was like, look, Swerve, you got to get my robe back because if you don't, I'm done.
Right.
My legacy means more than our friendship. He said that himself. The legacy that he's had with that robe, you can see, especially what Ricochet has been doing, getting into Swerve's head and is being more confident with this heel role that he's portraying. Now, with this going on, I can see that happening. So, yeah, I have Ricochet actually pulling the upset on this one.
Okay, so it's 2-1 right now. Okay, no problem. I get it. From there, next match, Falls Count Anywhere match for the AEW Women's World Title. Timeless Toni Storm versus Mariah May.
This is going to Toni Storm.
Thank you.
I'm not sure who wins, but the backstage promo with Toni Storm and the guy from the movie, that the Queen of the Ring, how funny was that? That was hilarious. Her doing the accent and then him doing the accent. That was great stuff.
I agree.
I'm waiting for another backstage promo where she's still looking for Wendy Richter. I mean, she is absolutely hilarious. Her timing is on point. They have a character. The AEW has a character built in from the jump that they can do things with. I thoroughly enjoy her work.
Absolutely right. From there, AEW International Championship singles match. Konosuke Takeshita versus Kenny Omega. Come on. Takeshita.
Okay, but to be fair here, I hate, and I know the AEW fans are going to kill me for this. Maybe some will, not all. I hate that Takeshita's going to lose here because I feel like his work is so good. His work might be better than Okada's work, as some people have stated online. So right now, I just don't love. I think it would be an amazing twist if Takeshita won.
Yeah,
that's why I'm going in favor of Takeshita winning. I genuinely do feel that Takeshita's going to go ahead and pull off a win here.
Yeah, I think the money match for Omega, as we've been talking about here, is going to be him and Okada. Okada is still going to have a championship by the time that they face each other. So, are they going to do a double championship match to kind of build the importance of it? Are they going to have Omega chase a championship that he has never won? Or is there going to be any championships involved by the time they face each other? Who knows?
So, Peeps, you're going along the lines of what? Kenny Omega probably wins the international title?
Yes, I've got Omega winning, and then them trying to make an important match between the Continental Champion and the International Champion. That's what I'm thinking.
Winner take all, merge it into the
I think it's going to be a winner take all deal.
So what if
Intercontinental title for AEW?
If they can do that and consolidate all of the championships that they have, because as far as I'm concerned, the Continental Championship should mean more than the International Championship by virtue of the fact that they do a yearly tournament to determine who the champ is.
Yes.
That's what they should do. Merge both belts, make that Continental Championship, give it the importance that the International Championship has as far as its lineage, and move on from there, knowing that Omega at some point is going to be probably vying for a world title by the end of the year.
Gotcha.
Wait, real quick. How about this? What if Callis, who, by the way, is rarely at ringside for his people that he manages, he's always on commentary. What if he comes to ringside finally and tries to help Takeshita, but then costs him the match inadvertently? That's the way you beat Takeshita. You can't beat him clean.
No, a clean victory would kill him. He doesn't need to have that on his. If you're going to have him lose, you protect Takeshita as much as you can because he is a star. If you want to go ahead and say he is now one of the current pillars of AEW, I got no problem with saying that.
Not wrong. Well, look, from there, last match, singles match, AEW World Title, Moxley, Cope. Who we got, gentlemen?
H.
If the thought process is to finally cash in this whole Adam Copeland winning the world title and taking the belt away from Moxley, then that works. If they're going to continue to hold Moxley with the belt until we have Darby Allin come back from Mount Rushmore or whatever mountain he's climbing right now, yeah. But in general, I think what makes the most sense is whoever they put the world title on is got to be somebody that is going to hold on to it for quite some time. Moxley holding on to the belt, nobody really cares or thinks about him as a champ because the belt's in a briefcase.
Yeah.
Cope has basically single-handedly destroyed every single member of the Death Riders. And on top of that, he's now infiltrated the mind of Wheeler Yuta, who now he's talking about respect, lack of respect. Him almost leaving the group on Wednesday.
Right.
That's playing into it. So at some point, Cope is in the mind of the Death Riders. He's in the mind of Moxley now. And I think if they're going to pull the trigger, Cope wins on Sunday. So that's what I'm going with.
I'm going to tell you why Cope doesn't win. Something was very telling at the end of Dynamite. You just mentioned all the people that look like they're going to go against Moxley. Wheeler, Yuta, and everyone that's now not going to supposedly have his back.
Yeah.
But at the end of Dynamite, we got to hear from Jay White. And Jay White said something very interesting in that and talking about how he's had Cope's back and will have his back. But the way he said it and everything that's going against Moxley right now. Now, again, 10 matches, right? How many turns can you do? But if Cope loses, it's going to be because Jay White is going to turn on Cope because he doesn't like everything that's transpired.
Yeah, that's a good one. And besides, Jay White is a much better heel than he is a face.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
You can build off of that. And then you got a built-in feud with Copeland right there. And then you delay Mox losing the belt until Darby Allin is ready to go ahead and claim that. Because I firmly believe he's the heir apparent to winning that championship.
Yes. I agree so. So, I mean, title me in for Moxley.
Okay.
All right, then. Well, gentlemen, looks like that's the end of our predictions. And ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of Saturday afternoon's main event. Of course, we appreciate you guys for going ahead and tuning in to listen to our predictions, to listen to every single one of our takes, especially in the world of professional wrestling. Look, we will be back here next week for episode 12. So remember, if you want to go ahead and follow us on all the latest social media news and updates, all our memes, sending in questions, follow us on Instagram then at Saturday Afternoons _ main event. Follow us on Twitter at Saturday Main, and follow us on TikTok at Saturday Afternoons ME, where later this week we will be going ahead and posting a couple more reels and TikToks, pitching into the mind of professional wrestling for you, the fans, to go ahead and sit there and watch. And of course,
yes,
now we have to sit there and await that this.
For those who didn't watch the beginning of the show, Uncle Triple C will be back. Tell your friends, your family, your pets, your enemies. Tell anyone, your frenemies. Tell anyone you know.
I'm about to have a brain
Triple C next week.
I'm going to lose my crap. Peeps, you know what?
The GOAT of hosting podcasting.
I need a drink. You know what?
How about this? I'll take us out. That's Chris. That's my partner, the Phenomenal One, and Peep Snitch. How about that? In the words of the great Paul Heyman, we conquered.
Thank you, Peeps. Thank you. We conquered. See you next week, gentlemen. I'm done with this.